Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Former Corporate Warrior. I spent 22 years in corporate America, and during that time, I had some pretty wild stuff happen to me. On this channel, I share stories of my experiences and, more importantly, the lessons that I learned from those experiences. First, a little disclaimer. These stories come from different companies, different managers, and different points of my career. This is not about exposing anyone. This is about helping other people to recognize toxic workplaces and bad behavior at work so that they can better advocate for themselves and to also know that they're not alone, they're not crazy. These things actually do happen in the workplace and they are not right. So let's get into today's story, which is titled I Shattered My Leg and Thought Taking Time Off Work Would Hurt My Career. So back in the day, I shattered my left leg. I was out west skiing, celebrating my birthday, and I broke my tibia and my fibula. I spent the whole trip in the hospital having surgery, flew home as scheduled, and then returned to work on Monday. And you might be asking, why did you return to work on Monday? You just shattered your leg. The reason why I returned to work on Monday is because my manager encouraged me to work from home. Now, this was before COVID. This was before working from home was a very commonplace thing. And I think my manager thought that they were giving me a good compromise. But looking back, I can see that my manager was just protecting themselves because I was the highest performer on the team. And my absence, even just for a few weeks, would have definitely been felt, especially by my manager. So even though I was in the worst pain of my life and on very heavy duty pain meds, my manager still encouraged me to meet with clients and go after my sales goals. So here's where it gets interesting. About 3 weeks after my surgery, my manager reaches out to me and asks me to travel for a client meeting. Client meeting was a bit far away. I'd either have to get on a plane or get in a car and drive for 5 hours. Now, this was just 3 weeks post surgery, and I was still in very bad shape. There were certain activities of daily living that I couldn't do. My husband had to help me shower, my husband had to help me get dressed, and I was still in so much pain that I couldn't even scooter around Target for 10 minutes without crying in pain. And my manager knew all of this. And my manager still asked me to travel for this meeting. And I told my manager, I'm sorry, I wish I could. I am just not ready at this point. And my manager kept coming back and kept pushing me and coming up with these different ideas of how I could travel. And it got to the point where my manager suggested that I hire a traveling nurse to come with me to shower and dress me. And I was just like, this is too much. I am feeling way overpressured to do something that my health is simply not ready to do at this point in time. So at that time, I mentioned to my manager that technically I should be on disability. And if I was on disability, I would be on disability for at least a few more weeks. So maybe I should go on disability now so that situations like this aren't even a question. Well, she backed off pretty quickly after that. And I think the reason why she backed off is because if I did take leave at that time, then HR would likely have to get looped into something like that. And then they'd be asking questions. Why did she continue to work after having surgery? Why didn't she go on leave right away? And I don't think my manager wanted to engage in any of those conversations. But here's the really ironic part. I worked for a disability insurance company. So imagine me with a cast on, hobbling on crutches, crying in pain, and coming into the meeting. Hey, I'm here for the meeting. Yeah, definitely not a good look. So looking back, there are three things that I would have done very differently. The first thing is that I would have taken every single day of disability that the doctor would have signed me out for. Even just 6 weeks of short-term disability would have been hugely helpful. And I had both short-term disability and long-term disability available to me, company paid. At that time, my kids were little. They were both under the age of 3, and it would have been extremely helpful to be able to just focus on my health and my family and to not also have to worry about work. The second thing that I would have done differently is that I wouldn't have been so worried and concerned about, oh, my manager and my team, they're going to be so mad at me because I have to take time off work. No, I was in a horrible spot. And companies have disability insurance exactly for situations like that, so that something terrible happens to an employee, they can get healthy and come back to work. But it was so ingrained in my mind that in order to be deemed a good employee, you had to work through anything. You're sick, you still work. You're hurt, you still work. The client meeting comes first. Everything, including your health, comes after that. And because of that mindset, I just pushed through it. The third thing I would have done differently is that I would not have been as forthcoming with information about my situation with my manager and my team, because I think at times they may have used it against me a little bit to guilt trip me. My manager painted the picture of our team being such a close family and we're all such great friends. But I'll tell you, as soon as me potentially going out of work would put more work on their plate, the dynamics very quickly shifted. Two key lessons that I learned from this situation. The main lesson is that your health always comes first, and your performance at work should never come before your health. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And guess what? You drop dead, and your company's going to have your job posted before the day is up. So your health absolutely has to always come first. The second thing I learned is that you should always utilize the benefits available to you. Things like disability insurance and paid time off are part of your overall benefits package, your overall compensation package. And if you don't use those benefits, you are basically giving your money, back to the employer. I didn't even take one day off. I still can't believe that happened. Anywho, thank you so much for watching. If you've experienced anything similar in corporate America, please drop your story in the comments. It could be extremely helpful to other people that are experiencing similar things. Again, thank you so much for watching, and please stay tuned for my next video, which is titled Pregnancy Accommodations Shouldn't Be a Fight. See you soon.